Hello, YouTube. Subscribe. We're doing a Neuvillette video. Like, comment, subscribe. It is version 4.5. Neuvillette is getting his rerun in the second half of this update alongside Kazuha. I've just realized I've never done a post-release Neuvillette video, so here we go. What does Neuvillette do? It's pretty simple. All right, he is an HP scaling hydro on-field DPS. He puts down balls and gets stacks. What do you mean balls? Balls. His elemental skill and elemental burst make balls. When Neuvillette grabs balls, his charge attack ejects. Big hydro laser. Brrr, I'm a fire laser. It's that simple, all right? So Z skill is burst, smack those balls in the chest. The damage of his bidet is dependent on his authority stacks. Whenever a hydro reaction is triggered, he gets additional damage. These are the stacks. We talked about the balls, we're talking about stacks. Teams with Furina will have 2 authority stacks, but this is not a problem, and these teams will have 3 stacks when enemies either provide you with a pyro aura or have a pyro shield or a dendro shield of their own. Contrary to what some guy on Reddit might tell you, Neuvillette's definitively best C0 teams all include Furina. This does not mean the Furina-less teams are terrible. Neuvillette still has very effective AoE and can play some much more inconsistent 3-stack teams. 2-stack teams are generally easiest to play, but can be significantly less damage unless you get the extra stack from enemies. Furina-less teams also don't need to build energy recharge. If you don't have Furina, you will need 130 to 140 to consistently burst. Let's talk about some 5-star weapons. There is Tome of the Eternal Flow, Sacrificial Jade, and some other weapons that we're going to talk about in a bit. But first, let's talk about Tome of the Eternal Flow. This is best in slot 5-star weapon. It is a actually somewhat marginal damage increase over R5 Sacrificial Jade if you aren't playing around Sacrificial Jade's passive, which, spoiler alert, you should be anyway, because of how buff up times work. The energy passive is nice, but not super useful with Furina. It could be considered more flexible due to having no field time requirement. It is about 30% better than Prototype Amber. Sacrificial Jade is the battle pass weapon. It refines from 32 to 64 HP percent. This is a very good weapon from the battle pass. It scales very well with the fines. Each refine is $10 though. R5 is extremely competitive with Tome of the Eternal Flow R1. It's about 15% over Prototype Amber at R1 though. Worth mentioning, if you play Vape Neuvillette, this is his best in slot weapon. It is literally better than Tome of the Eternal Flow. Lost Prayer to Sacred Winds, it is a pretty good weapon. The crit rate can be awkward. The effect isn't that great, but you can use it. Very similarly, you can use Widsith. You have a 1/3 chance to get a buff that does something for 10 seconds every 30 seconds. That being said, Widsith is technically better than Prototype Amber, which is his free-to-play weapon option. It does have healing, which doesn't do much, but it can be comfy. Sets are really, really simple. There is one. I'm sorry, it's true. 4-piece Martial Set Hunter. This is the only set you should ever use on Neuvillette. That's it. It is that much better than everything else. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Main stats are also very simple. HP Sands, HP or Hydro Goblet, Crit or HP Circlet. And there are a lot of people who will build 30 crit rate on their Neuvillette with Meshasai Hunter.
We interrupt this program to bring you
SAWAGANA. I swear to God, if you have 30 crit rate. Mother. Not another one. Not another one, man. Come on. Why do people do this? He has no crit rate. Like, at all. My man, where is his crit rate? Is he on 30 crit rate? Is he on 30 crit rate? He's got to be on 30 crit rate. Why do people try to run 30 crit rate on this guy? It's gotta be. Excuse me, please sit behind you. This is unplayable. This is... Hold on. Why do people do this? Why do people do this? Why do people do this? I don't understand. Oh, you give yourself crit rate. You could just run 0. You run Mixed 800. You can just run 0 crit rate on your characters. It's great. It's great. Mercy Hunter gives you permission to run 0 crit rate. Isn't Mercy Hunter so good? Stop it. Get some help. You don't need to gamble on every charged attack hit. One of the best things about Mercy Hunter is it makes your builds easy. Stop making them difficult. Just build 50, 60 crit rate. What's the matter with you? Bruh. Constellations, C1 is +1 stack. This is real simple, it's +1 stack. +1 stack is 28% of a damage increase for his charged attacks. It also makes Neuvillette uninterruptible during his charged attack. C2 is 42 crit damage. What does 42 crit damage do? On top of giving you 42 crit damage for your charged attack, it sways builds away from crit damage circlets to HP circlets if you have enough crit rate. So it is very likely if you use Tome of the Eternal Flow and play with Furina and have a ton of crit rate subs on your artifacts, your optimal build can be HP, HP, HP. This is not a joke. It's very legitimate. C2, +3 normal attacks. This is 20% additional damage on his charge attack. Neuvillette's first 3 constellations are quite simply certified bangers. Those first 3 constellations are certified bangers, and the rest do basically nothing until C6, and his C6 is about a 1/3 damage increase. If you wanted to be economical with hyper investing Neuvillette, stop at C3. There's not that much of a difference. That being said, his C6 does additional hits during his charge attack where he does not touch the ground. He's able to effectively do 4 charge attacks in the time it took C0 to do 3. It's about a 1/3 damage increase over C5, but it can situationally just be comfy because he never has to touch the ground. He can just stand in place and spin in a circle for a significantly longer time. We talked about this earlier, but let's briefly talk about how you play him. There should be video on the screen explaining how to do this. The way it works is pretty simple. You use Neuvillette's E skill, use your supports. Generally, if you're playing Furina, this will look like Neuvillette skill, Zhongli Holdi, Furina E skill burst, Kazuha burst, or Kazuha skill. You can then do Neuvillette, charge attack, burst, E skill, charge attack, swap back to Kazuha, do a swirl, and then you do Neuvillette, charge attack, until his E skill is off cooldown, and rinse repeat. Teams are really simple. This is his most consistent team. From C0 to Constellation Infinity, Neuvillette and Furina doesn't really change. It is Furina, Kazuha, Zhongli. Contrary to some belief, Zhongli is not here for defense, which is why I mentioned the constellations. There is no one else you can use that is worth that 20% shred. Besides maybe Xiangling, sometimes. Not even really, though. Replacing Kazuha with an animal healer can theoretically perform similarly, but it is unlikely to in reality. If you wanted to use alternative healers with Kazuha, you can use Electrocharged or Baiju for some more comfort and greater Furina damage. Kazuha synergizes well here with Electro Application and AoE for EC swirls, and Lisa is also usable. Baiju is a lower damage option than Zhongli, but he is similarly comfortable. If you don't want to play VV, there are team options with Dendro. There is Hyper Bloom or Burgeon/Burning. If you are able to build infinite energy recharge on Xiangling and be very lucky with the reaction timing, this team can actually perform better than Kazuha Zhongli. You just have to reset quite a bit for it, and it's not very comfortable. So I generally don't recommend it, but it is good. Now, what teams do I recommend playing without Furina? These are the major options. To be honest, the first one I want to recommend is Nilou Bloom. This is more of a Nilou team than a Neuvillette team, but hey, Nilou's really good. Your Neuvillette build will not change. You just play him here. Xingqiu is a really cool option for energy and interruption resistance. You can also use Yelan or Mona or Tartaglia for the +1 auto attack. These teams are primarily for when enemies give you a free stack. A great example of this are Pyro Abyss Mages or Dendro Balls. Now, there are some 3-stack C0 teams. Most of these teams are going to include Xiangling, because honestly, they're the only ones that I think are worth playing. This is like VV Vape Neuvillette. This is Burn Vape Neuvillette. Hopefully there will be footage on the screen showing me playing these teams. That's Neuvillette. Also, chat, regarding Neuvillette Polvite, here you go. Combat.